Good. It's been a kind of a crazy week here in D.C.
I can imagine.
Obviously, we'll get to all of that stuff, but starting with the Sotomayor hearings, and then the president's being abroad, coming back, and then giving this speech in New York, and a return to the campaign trail in some ways.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to keep on top of it.
I'm very happy about that speech. I really think that that is one for the books, and the reason that I think that is because I like the way he makes full acknowledgement of the fact that there are obstacles that black people face that most white people don't. And he really does acknowledge it. He doesn't just give it one sentence, like somebody like me often does. He actually dwells on it. Plus, with the cadence and everything. And then he specifies, though, that there are no excuses. And I think that those two things together are exactly what everybody needs to hear. And nobody could say it better than he did. Although, in a way, I'm not sure whether the audience necessarily knew what they were clapping for. I mean, it's one thing to clap when somebody says no excuses. It's another thing to really start going on the basis of that. But I thought he really, really hit the bullseye there.
What's your take on the sort of the media response to the speech? I know that a lot of the headlines did focus on that sort of no excuses thing, and and this has been something that we've seen throughout the president's period of public life, where he talks to black people about fatherhood, where he talks to people in Ghana about,
do it yourself,
good governance, etc. And the reaction from the sort of majority culture and the mainstream media is to say, well, we're so relieved that Obama could say that because we couldn't, but we totally think that. And then that sort of puts these sort of camps at odds with one another in a strange way, where there's a resentment that, as Jesse Jackson put it very crudely, that he's talking down to black people.
Sure.
Or, on the other hand, that, people in the black community are like, we've been saying this for years. Why is this so surprising to all of these white folks? Like, you don't think we beat our kids? You don't think we give people a whooping every once in a while when they cut class?
Yeah.
So there's this weird audience question. So I'm just curious what you think of the media treatment of this, and which audience Obama was addressing in New York.
Yeah, I think that Obama was addressing the black audience. And I think that certainly the media enjoy it when a black figure gives that kind of message. And I think it's always going to be that way, partly because it makes for good TV, and partly, let's be honest, because I think that majority white opinion, including in blue America, is that there's something missing in the black community in terms of the fact that whatever the government can do, that ultimately the main impetus has to come from within. And to tell you the truth, Dio, if that were the media in 1973, I would have a little bit more of a problem with it. But it's gotten to the point, and opinions will differ, but I really think that the main issues now are ones where the main impetus has to come from us, although we have to have the conditions in which we can do it. And if the black community knows this, and the black community certainly knows this, that's definitely the case, then I think that that's the most important thing. It seems, for me, the issue here is, what would the alternative be? Do the people who get itchy, and people are already itchy this morning about Obama saying that in front of white America and the media going crazy, do they want him to get up and say, the government has to take care of us, America is on the hook, and the NAACP starts cheering?
Oh, okay, right.
I don't know, how do you feel about that?
I think that you're missing the distinction between the types of speeches that Obama can give. Like, yes, there's people who are going to be upset because he's, talking down to black people, but that's not really the divide. I think Obama, if you listen to his rhetoric, he gives two different kinds of speeches when he talks about blackness. There's obviously the very famous A More Perfect Union speech that he gave in Philadelphia in 2008. But then there's this speech he gave in Selma, Alabama in 2007, maybe 2006, which is this famous Joshua Generation speech, where he very much is a supplicant to the African-American tradition and the giants of the Civil Rights era.
Yeah.
Where he says, I stand on the shoulder of giants. We are the Joshua generation. Moses took people to the promised land. Joshua led them across the river. And I am the Joshua generation that will take this legacy further. And that is sort of very much of a sop to the sort of older generations of black Americans who are a lot of the folks who are in that room. I mean, the average age of the NAACP's membership is 55.
Right.
And then there's a sort of tough love speech, which now that he is president, because before he was president, it was sort of about winning the approval of this older generation. Now that he's president, he's making more of a focus on setting his own agenda, on talking about this sort of this tough love, this sort of, get your house in order thing. And yes, it's a public airing of dirty laundry, but I think that it's very necessary. I agree with you that the speech was good and was really well received. But I do think that, Obama is now stepping into his role as the head Negro in chief in a way that he wasn't always doing before. And I think people give him credit for that and feel like he has earned that title and that platform.
I hope so. And I think that he is doing that partly just by being himself. But the fact that he can put some voice to it and that he can do it with a kind of love coming through no matter what he says. I must admit that the Joshua generation speech, I worried about that one because the truth is, especially when you make a speech, when you're using language orally instead of having something written down that people are going to study, there are general impressions that are left. And when you talk about being the Joshua generation, you're right, and I wouldn't say it's a sop to the older generation, but the general construction of that speech was, I know what people did in the past to make someone like me possible. And in a sense, that's what impression was left of that one. What was left of that one, especially where it was given, was we can't forget the past, and just leaving it there. And I think we both know what that message about we can't forget the past means. Often it means the present is still the past. So I like these more forward-looking speeches. I don't think anybody could do it like him. And that's not to say that there aren't problems. And it was so wonderful the way he spelled them out. It was interesting.
Do you agree? Sorry, do you